cell phones.
Discussing information, COVID-19, no further issue.
So for your COVID-19 report, Marion, if you could pull up the, have the chart up, please. So as I sent to the board in your weekly Friday update, I'm sure this is no surprise to anybody. I think this has been discussed in the news. We're starting to see the cases swing back in the wrong direction. So you can see the numbers compared to where we were 4 weeks ago in March. Now we have two categories in substantial. One of our local categories is in substantial. The other two are in moderate. So we are still safe to be open based on all the new revised guidelines. But and our staff has been vaccinated, but we saw 2 or 3 cases last week. Another 2 or 3 cases came up again this week. So we just need to encourage parents, if your students are feeling sick, please keep your students at home. Also, I think it's important that if someone in the household is sick, that's considered a close contact. And unless you can really verify that you're able to isolate or quarantine, the student is able to isolate or quarantine from the sick family member in the household, we really should make sure that that student goes to remote for the 7 or 10 days before they come back to class, because some of the contact tracing has shown, there was maybe a sick family member, the student came to school and then ended up becoming positive, and then we have to quarantine many students in the classroom or on a team or on an activity. So just be cognizant of that. When in doubt, if you think it's not safe or you think there's a concern, stay home, call the school. We could talk, set you up with the nurse, so you can ask questions. We can provide you some guidance on how to do that. In regards to the ESSER 3, just a brief update. So we did find out that we will be getting a third ESSER 3 payment sometime in FY22. It should be projected to close to about $1 million for the high school. It is a one-time payment. So Kristen and I will go through that with the Finance Advisory Council before May when we start the budget process. But some things we're looking to do with that additional money, obviously some of that has to be dedicated to learning loss. So one of the first things that I included a chart in the Friday update this week. We had about 8 classes that were at or near the enrollment caps. And so we would look to add an additional 1.4 FTE just to bring down those class averages so that we can make sure we can do the 3 feet of separation and the social distancing under the revised guidelines, because the ultimate goal is to get back into school come August. So those are like the 7 or 8 academic classes where we were at or near the cap. So we're looking at possibly adding those 1.4 FTE. We got to go through the financial impact of that with the Finance Advisory Council. We also talked about summer school and the summer workshops. So the recommendation from the administration would we use some of that ESSER money to offset. We traditionally charge for summer school to offset the cost of the teachers and like the building, because usually we shut down the air conditioning in some parts of the building to lower our utility bills in the summer. And so this year what we'd like to use is use some of that ESSER money so that the students who are doing any type of credit recovery or summer school to make up a course that they failed or a credit they need to make up because of the pandemic, that would be free of charge, as well as summer academic workshops. We have several academic workshops that are like Bridge to AP, AP Calc, Freshman Bridge program. There's a couple other academic programs that we would also like to waive the cost of that so that students can have an opportunity to make up any type of academic standing or make up any type of learning loss over the summer that they would see fit. We have some paraprofessionals that we need to hire in order to meet our needs with special ed, and some of the staff that we did not bring back this school year, knowing that we are on a lighter schedule. So it would be a good idea to help rehire some of the paraprofessionals that are needed. And then we would have to look at, some of the, we had some projected deficits, so that the remaining dollars would be used to help offset some of our operating expenditures that are used to operate the school district on a regular basis. So more information of that will become available, I would expect, in the upcoming months, probably more in the summer. What my biggest concern is with this ESSER money is the state released the notification about and they did their press release on how school districts will be receiving this third payment. And I sent an article to the board this past week of what I'm worried about is that the governor may use that as an opportunity to say they don't need to fund the evidence-based funding formula. So like, oh, we're giving you this pot of money from your ESSER money, but in turn we're going to keep your funding flat this school year to help, for the state to use that money to offset their deficit. So I think we have to be, while we should still remain positive and optimistic, we have to wait and see how this all plays out over the next couple months, and if that's used by Springfield to kind of diminish the evidence-based funding funding formula. Rentals, the district has begun accepting some rental requests. This has been on hold since last March. Most of these rental requests will be on a weekend when there's no school events. We're trying to minimize or avoid any type of out-of-district rentals while there's a district activity going in, but we are trying to get back to some normalcy and recoup some of that revenue. And I know Dr. Freitas, you had an update in regards to some of the building level matters. And then when we're done with that, I can address some of the questions if I didn't address them yet in my speaking points.
Good evening, honorable board members, students, and family members. Firstly, I want to thank Mr. Mark Helgeson, Mr. Lomach, Ms. Augustine for a great SAT testing day. We welcomed almost 400 juniors here, and we did not have any single issue. So I want to thank everybody, all the proctors, all the supervisors, and all the students. It was nice seeing many students for the first time back. And guys, please remember, your school is open. If you're doing well in remote learning, please continue. But if you want to come, RB is open. And parents, if you have any questions about switching from 2-day to 4-day or starting with the 2-day, just email my administrative assistant, Ms. Tammy Molo, okay, and we'll correspond. But again, RB is open. Guys, to address the historic achievement gap, which is common not only here in many schools, and the academic challenges caused by COVID-19, we have created English and math interventions for the upcoming school year to best support the students during the school day. We can get them during school day. After school, I'm not gonna it. Sometimes it's tough. People have obligations, people have activities, but we're gonna get them during the school day. During the school day, and only after analyzing the data of our STAR reading and math, our T1 progress monitoring tool, which is criterion reference, students who are identified as needing support will be pulled out, from elective, maybe PE, to get support in English and in math. That's something different that we're doing to address the achievement gap, and I believe that was one of the questions from the board members. We will also be continuing our building-wide SEL lessons this past semester, and we're continuing. Our social workers and psychologists have teamed up and pushed into the freshman PE classes every Monday for 35 minutes. Our team have led lessons on mindfulness, managing emotions, bullying, conflict resolution, coping skills, anxiety, depression, stress, you name it, and we're covering it. Guys, we realize that this COVID-19 pandemic has brought a lot of stress on all of us, especially our students. So our team is going to continue doing SEL not only this semester, but as we start the next school year as well. We've also done, parent nights, how to motivate, your students. And also I want to thank the counseling department because they have been involved in this process as well. We will continue to offer our robust opportunities for summer school in person for 9th, 10th, and 11th graders that include core credit recovery courses, which will be free of cost, courses for advancement, academic workshops, Bridge to AP, Bridge to RB, academic camps, band, TV production, Bridge to Science, Introduction to Algebra, Essential Algebra Skills, Mindfulness, and Driver's Ed. Guys, please see the guide available on our website. And I also want to thank all the teachers that are committing to summer school, because I know sometimes for some, right, people want a vacation, people want to spend time with the family, deservingly so. So I want to thank all the staff members that will be working during the summer. All the programs except Courses for advancement, driver's ed, camp college, summer television program, and band orientation for freshmen and new members will be free. Okay? I want to thank all of our teachers again for intentionally using our tech tools. Guys, I know, right? Learning loss has become a hot topic, and there have been some missed opportunities. Right? We know that, right? Our schedule has been different, time has been reduced, right? That's real. But I also want to talk about some of the gains. Our students are learning how to leverage technology tools daily to comprehend, to read, to write, to draft, to meet socially. So our students are learning the skills and working with digital programs that they're going to be using in college. So our students have also made some gains in leveraging several technology tools to comprehend the lessons. Grading. Third quarter grade books will remain closed. I know first semester I opened up the second quarter, but not this time around. Guys, we have about 6 weeks left. So to all the students and all the families, guys, you can pass. We still got plenty of time. We have 6 full weeks left of school to recover any missed opportunity or to learn and to demonstrate mastery. So guys, get the job done now. Per school policy, all third quarter grades can be no lower than a 50% NF. So students, if you at least get a C for fourth quarter in your class, you will pass. Don't aim for a C, aim higher. But if you at least get that C, I think you'll be in good shape and pass your classes. Guys, there's no final exam for second semester. For those in AP classes, AP teacher will implement learning experiences to students after the AP examination. Okay? Communication will be sent to any senior and their family who is in danger of failing a course or potentially not graduating. I know I personally myself have been communicating as well. Teacher will continue to provide interventions, opportunities, and communicate any failures. Guys, remember, there's no edict from the state this year about, not failing a class. So students and parents, guys, we're here for you, but we need you to give your best effort to demonstrate mastery. 83% of our Bulldogs pass all of their classes during third quarter. However, 17% of our student body earned 1 or more failures. And I broke it down demographically. 25 black students earned 51 Fs. That's at 8.5% of all Fs. For Latino students, 130 students earned 284 Fs. That's 47% of all total failures. Our white students, 118 students earned 242 Fs. That's 40.6% of all the failures. We had 1 Asian student, 0.1%, and 8 students that identified as multiracial, 18 Fs, which is about 3%. In total, 282 students obtained 596 Fs, so 17% of our student body received 1 or more Fs during third quarter. Historic data, last year there were 418 Fs at this time. Prior to that, 385, and prior to that, 402. So we are a little higher than in previous years. So what's our plan for fourth quarter to reduce the failures? We're going to continue communicating with parents and students. We're going to get as many students that are in the 2-day to come 4 days. Guys, teachers, officers are open. We're doing dean visits. I personally do visits myself. We're continuing our weekly team meetings where together our counselors meet and create action plans to get those students to pass. Maybe it's a reduction in schedule, maybe it's an extra opportunity. And modifying student schedules, of course. I've kind of included some of the board member questions here. There was a questions about, asynchronous days and the time dedicated to students. So I want to be clear. Asynchronous days have been used since the beginning to conduct remote lessons, to give students a chance to practice skills on targeted assignments, give extended time on assignments, give students an opportunity to catch up, move ahead, or take a break for being on the screen all the time. An essential part of equitable practices is dedicating more time to students that need it the most. So I want to commend my teachers for dedicating time to the students that need it the most. And they're not going to leave anybody behind. I want to make that clear. Because some students just need, a few extra minutes, a few extra time, an extra lesson. Okay? Some students work better independently. Some students, need additional support. But I will make sure not to create another gap another way around. Tomorrow we're continuing. Wednesday, April 14th, L through Z, 2 days, 4 days you come in. Thursday, A through K, if your last name is A through K, 2 days in person, 4 days. And then Friday, April 16th, L through Z for 2 days and 4 days for in person. This quarter, we're averaging about 500 students, up from the 200 students that we averaged third quarter. So there are more students coming. And every day you see one more student here and there. I'm trying it. But guys, remember, COVID's still around. People are still afraid, and people have built routines, and some have been successful on remote learning, But to the board, we're getting 1 or 2 more students every day, which is good to see here. RB continues to facilitate vaccinations for as many staff members as possible. I want to thank my superintendent, my assistant superintendent for making that happen. Lunches grab and go, available every day as students leave. Class of 2021, Michael, Lily, everybody listening, all right? We got a plethora of events coming up. Graduation will be at the Canali Athletic Complex at the stadium, May 28th at 6 p.m. Students will get 2 tickets. The next day, the 29th, will be the rain day. Prom, let me just say, first, we're going to have a prom. How does prom look? We have a site visit Friday. However, whether it's offered inside or outside is dependent on the COVID-19 data. Right now, we're spiking up. Guys, but I want everybody to know, and the community, that we're working very hard. We have not thrown in the towel. We know prom is important, that culminating event, maybe the last time that all the Bulldogs are together, right, before people move on, start families, start jobs, go to college, go to the military. We're gonna make it happen. This Friday, we have a site visit in a conference center that has a big space and multiple rooms. And maybe we could be under the cap, right? 50 kind of in each space. So we're trying to be creative as possible to bring everybody together, but not necessarily under the same space, okay? Parents and family will give you guys an update after we do the site visit Friday. You guys should get correspondence from me or one of my assistant principals on that. Athletic contests are being live streamed on 2 platforms. The first one is nfhsnetwork.com. That is the National Federation for High Schools. There is a cost, right, about $5, $10 when you sign up, but I think it's worth it, okay? Contests and indoors may be viewed at rbhs208.net/rbhslive. Lastly, there's a limited group of spectators that are allowed at home contests. Guys, please contact the athletic department for more details. Also, family members, I believe I shared some kind of correspondence on some sports-specific kind of numbers that people have asked, but we are allowing that. Here we go. Vaccines, guys. All 16-year-olds, except Chicago residents at the moment, are eligible to get a vaccination in the state of Illinois. Guys, make sure students, make sure you get your parents' permission first. Don't be showing up to sites. I don't think they'll give it to you. Always get permission. Guys, please contact the Cook County Department of Public Health, the Illinois Department of Public Health, or our local office with Nurse Brittany Barrett, 708-442-8363, extension 2152 for more information. But vaccines have opened up for 16-year-olds. In place of the annual telethon, the Riverside Brookfield Educational Foundation is putting on a raffle. The funds generated from the raffle support students and teacher projects. To buy tickets, go to our website, hit the RBEF fundraiser. I bought my tickets already. I believe there's 1 day left. You could purchase those tickets online. So please support the RBEF. You can go to www.rbef.tv/donate to support the Riverside Brookfield Educational Fund. And Dr. Skinkis, those are my COVID-19 updates.
Thank you, Dr. Freitas. There was 1 or 2 additional questions that were submitted in regards to some of the additional staffing that I talked about in order to meet safety guidelines. One of the questions submitted was, is that sustainable? I think this is why I mentioned we're going to talk about that as the Finance Advisory Council and during the budget process. The goal of adding that additional staff would be to help us reopen the school next year while we're still under the IDPH guidelines. Between projected enrollment dropping off over the next few years, whether or not that additional staff will be needed is still to be determined. Can some of the money be used to do something for teachers' social emotional health? I would need to look into that. I don't know if that's something that it can be used for, whether that's something we use on professional development days like Institute days to help with social emotional health or wellness. That may be something we may may be able to implement without really having to use some of those ESSER funds or use some of the ESSER, a different pot of money that the ESSER funds will help offset. Some out-of-the-box ideas, I mean, those are all things that I think Dr. Freitas and his administrative team will propose over the next couple months. You know, as we've all seen this unfold now, I think we're in a way different place than where we were last March or even last summer. I still think, you know, you have to be prepared for some adjustments and some pivots from the state. And so before we lock in or commit to, you know, too many things with the ESSER money, I think it's important that we you know, tread lightly as we move forward until more things become clear and we see what exactly those funds can be used for and what exactly we need in order to open school next year in a traditional model. I think the summer school questions have been addressed. There was another
question on that one, Dr.
Go ahead,
Seuss.
Ms. Salas.
Does the board need to take action on the fee waiver? I saw that was in the suggestion, but have we had previously adopted fee waivers and now we need to
We adopted
reduce them?
some fees for the next school year. We have not adopted fees for summer school, so we should probably eventually take action on that in May.
Okay, thank you.
Percentage of, I think it would be helpful after we go through that just to kind of get an idea of the cost with that final Finance Advisory Council we're planning towards the end of April. And then we could have a clean
Right.
recommendation of what, so if somebody would ask what the impact of this is, we'd have an understanding.
Right, I just think that we need to, in case the summer school offerings go up or go down, we, you know, stating that they're free is
Sure.
a positive. I think
All of a
there's a
sudden it
lot of
could
support
swing.
for that.
Sure.
But I think we need to understand the financial impact
Yep.
and then take action on it.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
That's a great question. CARES Act spending, there was a question submitted, can there be money set aside to help offset students or families that have issues with the pay to participate, because the board re-approved that fee last month. That absolutely could be something the board can choose to use that for. At this point in time, we already have a fee waiver for anybody on free and reduced lunch. And we also offer payment plan options and other options for families that are dealing with a unique circumstance, but that's something that can be considered and the board can discuss as more of this becomes clear throughout the next couple months. There was a question submitted in regards to percentage of teachers in regards to salary. What percentage of teachers make over $100,000, and can any of the ESSER money apply to any of that? I don't know what the impact of that will be, but we have about 54% of our staff are over 100,000.
And we have 103.
About 104.6 right now.
So that's 54 is like 54 teachers, over half.
Yeah, that's
Gotcha.
about right. And then I believe that was all the questions in regards to the COVID report.
Can I ask a fast question just about summer school? It says that it's in person, but is there a remote option if a student has to quarantine? Like, has the state said anything about that?
The state has not mandated that. Whether or not the expectation that a remote option still has to be applied, I don't know if that will apply to summer school. I'll need to look into that. Dr. Freitas, can you make a note of that as well?
Yes.
Just so that if, like you started the meeting, if
Sure.
a student has a family member,
Sure, you would rather have them quarantine and still be able to participate, right?
I think 70% of the kids are still remote, virtual, right?
Just about
that.
About that, it's
So though I think summer school might be less, we would love it to be reversed. The reality is it's probably not going to be. Right? And I think we need to think about next year. You know, how do we come back and say there's a number of kids that have a doctor or legitimate reason to be quarantined, and what is that number? Is it 10%? What we need to prepare for that. This might be an idea to invest, to dig down into how to do that with some of the cares, because it is really too hard to do it, to teach to both, in class and virtual.
So we've talked about that a little bit. We've had a little bit of discussion, Hector and I and Chris and I, in the last communications meeting with the RBEA, with their president and president pro tem. We anticipate that the process that will be put in place for students to be able to go remote next year will be much more difficult. It will be require a health plan, similar to like a 504. There'll be it'll be very similar to a process like we used this year with our teaching staff and our employees about having some accommodations, but the students still being in school. We do anticipate that there may be a small population of students that will have to still possibly be remote. We'll see how well the vaccinations become available over the summer for students 16 years and older. So we've talked a little bit about, do we still allow the cameras to be on, but have the teachers, continue to focus towards the students in the classroom and those students be able to watch remote. There's been a lot of discussions about that in the superintendent weekly meetings, both at the High School Association and in West Cook. There's been some discussion of, do we just align one section of each of our core classes, so that those students would there'd be an opportunity to take your core classes remote. That's one option we're looking at. If a student were to be remote, they wouldn't have access necessarily to some of the elective classes, but they would at least be able to take their core classes remote. So we're brainstorming and discussing a couple options, but I think that's where some of our time will definitely be spent throughout the month of April, May, and over the summer.
It might be worthwhile to over-communicate with parents that the expectation in the fall is that students outside of a medical necessity will be expected to be in person. Because I really do think school refusal, you're going to have a
It's going to be
packet.
high, sure.
Yeah.
Because just from what I hear in the neighborhood, there are kids that they don't want to come back.
Right.
And there's a lot of, debate on whether the kids do the vaccination or not.
Sure.
And just by the timeline, you've got to, you got to have everybody first shot by July 4th to make it work by August 15th, right?
We had talked already at, we'll be through an entire semester of school without students being vaccinated and students being here 4 days a week. So I think we've implemented a lot of the key mitigating strategies that need to be in place. But we had talked at our administrative meeting that Dr. Freitas is going to start communicating pretty soon here, starting in the end of April for early May, about when we start talking about residency and the paperwork. Those messages will be loud and clear that, with the exception of a health necessity, students will be expected to return to school.
So, quick question related to that. I appreciate you both talking about, encouraging 16 and ups to get vaccinated. I think that's an important message, obviously, for schools to carry. But it may be helpful for those watching at home to talk about how the quarantine process has adapted as the state has updated their metrics. I think I'm certainly hearing questions about who's impacted, who's a close contact. Maybe just revisit that again, because
Sure.
I think there's
Sure.
always
So one of the things that's made this a
Information.
little confusing to parents is that we've gotten some emails, and that was part of the message I delivered in the beginning of my COVID report about the importance, if you have a sick family member, even though you think you're able to stay 6 feet away in the household, it may be best to stay remote for 7 to 10 days and have a negative test. While the state revised the IDPH guidelines, that students can be within 3 feet of each other, social distancing can be within 3 feet when possible, and when the mitigating factors are in place, the quarantining is still with anybody within 6 feet of a positive case. So we had to quarantine some students over the last week or two who were in class and within 6 feet of the class because a student or a person tested positive. So it is a little bit conflicting, and I had mentioned something to the board. At times you get one thing from the IDPH and one thing from the ISBE. So they did not revise the close contact as anything within 6 feet. Yet they're saying it is okay to have students within 3 feet of social distancing within the classroom. I believe those address all the questions that were submitted. If there are no other questions, we can go on to FOIA.
Any other thoughts and concerns? Want to talk about? No? We're on this side? Okay.